Hello and welcome to SudoKanard. We're here to solve this Parquet Sudoku by creation author Siniša Hrga for the latest WPF Sudoku Grand Prix. And this is a very confusing Sudoku variant because you can see that some of the cells are huge. You can have those 2x2 squares. You can have those cells with just 3 potential cells. And actually, the rules of Sudoku sort of apply normally, except that there are 12 rows and 12 columns, but nine 3x3 or 4x4 blocks. So this is a bit confusing, so you must understand that this 4 applies for those 2 columns and those 2 rows. So we know that 4 is not here, and therefore 4 is not here, it's not here. And this is what we've got to work with. I didn't dare try the puzzle during the contest because I thought that the genre was so confusing I would go absolutely nowhere. But I did it afterwards and I think I understood how it's supposed to work. For example, something interesting is this 7. Because there is a 7 in this column, we know that there must be an isolated 7 in this column. So it could be here, could be here, could be here. And then the third 7 in this set of columns must be in such a region, because we must have 3 samples of 7 across 4 columns. That's how it works. Well, there are exactly 9 7s in the end. So 3 times 3 in here, 3 in here, 3 in here. So let me recap. So this 7 is the only one in this column. And in this column, it must be in isolated cells. So it could be here, it could be here, it could be here. And then the third 7 will have to be in such a region that covers 2 columns. So it can only be in this region or this region. But this 7 here prevents 7 from being here. So 7 is not in this region, it's in this region. And actually, so 7. All right, that's a 7. So that's 1 digit placed. Now, how do we proceed? Perhaps this 7 has something to do with this. Yes, if you consider, or perhaps those 4s interact. Because with this 4, I know that I must have 1 4 in a single cell in here and in a single cell in here. So the cells that can have a 4 are those. And actually, using this 4 here, we know that 4 won't be in those isolated cells. So 4 is nowhere in here. It's nowhere in here because of this 4, so 4 will have to be in one of those 2. And perhaps I can pencil mark them like this, but it's really not convenient. Perhaps I could use Sudoku just like this. Yes, that seems to work. And now, because of this, the 4 in this column must be in this region, so it will be there. Just a 4 by normal Sudoku notation. So that's the beginning. This 8 could also be interesting, because I know that in this part I must have an 8 in such a region. So it could be here, it could be here. And the other 8 will be on this row, so it could be here or here. And actually none of them are in conflict with this one, so that's not so interesting. But, now that I have this 7 here, and this 7 here, so now the 7 in this column can only be here. And we also must have a 7 in this row, on this row, in an isolated cell. So there's a 7 down there. And in this region, so if we just think of it globally, we need a 7 in this column and a 7 in this column. So with this, I know 7 is not here. So inside this column here, 7 can only be here. And inside this column now, it has to be in one of two places here. And then in one of three places there. And I was about to say, I think that's it for the 7s, but actually no, we still need a 7 inside those two columns, so it can only be inside those two rows, it can only be here, and this is consistent with the notation of 7s down there. All right, now with this 4, we must have a 4 in this row and a 4 on this row, so we have a 4 in here, and the second 4 will have to be somewhere in here. This 6 seems powerful, like this 7 was. It seems to be powerful because there is this 6. Well, I'm not so certain that this 6 will be useful at this point. But where else can I look? Perhaps 8 in this region. Yes, I think that's it. Because we have an 8 here, there are two options for the other 8s in those columns. Either we put an 8 here and an 8 there, so an 8 that overlaps those two columns, and it will be here. That seems to work. And then an 8 in this column, and because of this, it will have to be here. So this is a valid option. Or we get an 8 in this column, which means in this cell, and then the other 8 will have to be in such a region, but it's not this one. It will be this one, but this region is not available. So we can rule this option out, and we get the 8 here, and the 8 in this region. So this is, oh, sorry about that, a normal size, and that's it. So this is progress with digit 8, and now that I have those 8s, I need an 8 on those two rows, so it can only be here. Let's see how this 8 interacts with this 8 here. We still need an 8 on this row and an 8 on this row. And this 8 forbids this cell from containing an 8. So 8 will have to be in one of those two places. And the remaining 8 will have to be in one of those two places, but because of this 8, we get an 8 in this very place. And now we have two 8s here. The third 8 of all this area must go here. And this is starting to just fall into place. So we have an 8 for the last two rows here. And this row, we need an 8 on the first row. It can only be here, and it resolves that. From this point on, I think the rest will just unfold almost naturally. Let's see this 3. 3 is on those two rows, so 3 is in none of those cells. So 3 goes there. And then the remaining 3 of all this area is on the third row, so it has to go there. This 4 could be interesting. So 4 is not in here, it's not in here, but there are still 3 options. Now, this is not an option because of this. So there's a 4 down there, and then there must be a 4 on this row. It can only be here. So it removes this option, puts the 4 here, and the 4 there. And do we have all of them? No, but because those are in single columns, we must have one on 2 columns at once. And with this, I still need a 4 on the last row. So in here, this will have to be disambiguated later. What is the next step? We've done a lot with 3s. Is there anything more with that? Perhaps with 6. Yes, this 6 prevents all of those places. So we will have an individual 6 in one of those two. But let's ponder this option. If I try to put a 6 here, then the last 6 in here must be on the first and the fourth columns, which is impossible. So the 6 is here, and the other 6 is in this region. Now we have a 6 spanning 2 rows here and spanning 1 row here, so the remaining 6 must be here. Now there's a 7 in here, so the 7 is there. And this 6 seems to interact with this one, or does it? It sort of does, because we can rule those out. So 6 is either here or there. I will just put small pencil marks like this. Because, so once again, there are two options. Either we get a 6 here and a 6 there, or we get a 6 here. And the fact is that, oh, we can still have a 6 there. No, sorry. No, the fact is, I can just look at it with some other perspective, I think. If I try to put a 6 alone in this second column, then the only space available is this cell. And then the remaining 6 of all those columns should be in here, which is not allowed. So 6 won't go here, and 6 won't go alone on this column, so the remaining 6, the 6 for this column has to be this one at the center. 6, not underscore symbol. So we can remove this 6 and place the 6 in this column, and this 6 must be here. Now it interacts with this one. We need a 6 spanning 2 rows, so that's the place. And with this 6 and this 6, we need a 6 somewhere in here. But because of this 6, here is not an option. So that's a 6, that's a 4, and that's a 4. Oops. So all 4s have been placed, and all 6s, it seems. That's correct. So some digits will be harder to place in the end, namely 9, 1, and 5, and probably 2 as well. But let's focus on 3 again. With this 3 here, I need 2 individual 3s, and I see that on those columns, one individual 3 has to be here, and the other one must be in there. Now, because there's a 3 here, and we know that 3 is not in such a region, the 3 that spans 2 rows can only go here. And the 3 spanning only 1 row is this one. And because of those 3s, we must place a 3 in that central cell here, which removes this one and places a 3 here. And with this 3 and this 3, we need a 3 down there on a single cell, because there's a 3 here. This is the place, and that's a 7, and that's a 7. So all 3s and all 7s have been placed, I think. Now we are left with digit 2. Oh, 2 does not go anywhere in here, so that's the place. And those are 1 and 5. So to complete this first column, we must place a 9 in here. Those are 1 and 5, and I don't think I know about it. Except that this 5 here is not in there, so we must have a 5 somewhere here, and because of this 5 is not here, so there's a 5 in here. A single 5. And there's also a single 5 here. So the third 5 in this area must be here. And that's a 1. So here those are 1 and 5. Let's pencil mark them the usual way. This here is not 5, it's not 2, it's not 9, so it can only be 1. As Highlander would say, there can be only 1. So 9 is not in here, it's not in here, so this is the 9 and this is the 5. And up there I get the 1 and the 5. This row still needs 1, 5, and 9. This is not 1, and I'm not sure about this. But this one here is interesting because I need an isolated 1 on this row and a 1 somewhere here. But because of this one, 1 is not in this region, so 1 will be here. And here. And with those ones, I get the 1 in here. And with that, I get the 1 in here, and with that, I get the 1 in here. And I've placed all of them, I think. This region is still lacking the 2. So the 2 is nowhere here. Actually, the 5 is nowhere here. So that's the 5. The 2 is here, and that's a 9. And let's complete this column with a 5. And that's not a 2 because of that. So that's the 2, that's the 9. This column still needs a 2 and a 5, but there is a 5 here. So 5 here, 2 there. We're almost there. That has to be a 9 to complete this region. And with this, I can place a 9 there. 9 is not here. Or 9 is not here, but it could still be here or there. So there's not, 9 is not here because it would clash with those 2 places. So that's a 9, that's a 5, that's a 2. Now this row needs a 2. Those are 5 and 9, but there's a 9 here, so that's the 5. And let's put a 9 here, which should close, which should seal the deal. No, there's still a 2 in here. A 2, I said. And that's it. All right, so this was pretty confusing, I should say. But it was very well constructed, and once you get the hang of it, it's not that hard, but I think it could have been worth more than 40 points. But I won't complain because this is 40 points I didn't score. So I'm all for having non-scoring puzzles having less points. It's more interesting for me, but, perhaps many people find it easier than I do. Well, this is left to anyone's appreciation. Thanks for watching this video, and see you soon on SudoKanard.